Hello, good evening, and welcome to yet another episode of the Kenya Diaspora Spotlight. Thank you for staying with us from whichever part of the globe that you are watching from. Today, we are still going to the immigration issues that we've been handling over the past few weeks. During the last episode of the Diaspora Spotlight, we had a guest, Kevin Karue. If you haven't watched our immigration story and what we did about the COS, please go back and watch that, and then let us look at what is happening in the United States in terms of immigration. Today, we engage with a lawyer by the name Nicholas Ngetich from Kenya in Kericho County. He's currently in the US, Dallas, Texas. He tells me that laws are different in every state of the United. And so he's going to tell us a little bit about that, what he does, and what is happening in immigration, because there's a lot of noise in that particular sector. He is a father, he is a husband, and he is a lawyer, and a Kenyan above all. Welcome, Ngetich.
Thank you very much. Nice to be with all of you guys, wherever you are. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. As I've been introduced, my name is Nicholas Kipkoech Arap Ngetich. I come from Kericho. I currently reside in Dallas, Texas. I'm a Texas attorney. That means I'm licensed to practice in the state of Texas. When it comes to other forms of law, like federal law, I can do it all over the United States. And I will thank you for having me, the Kenyan Diaspora Media. This is a good time, I guess, for everybody to know what is going on, what their rights are, what they can do, what they cannot do. And I'm here to ensure that all of us are informed. Feel free to ask any question. There's no question which is out of bounds. If you feel like you need to know something, ask me. If I have an answer, I'll give you an answer. If I don't have an answer, we'll follow up and we'll get you that answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So today we're doing an information session, and we're doing a deep dive of what exactly is going on. There's been a lot of documentaries, and I'm going to start with one that was done by BBC about stranded, and it focused on the UK. But by them highlighting the issues that were happening in the UK, it opened up a whole I would say Pandora's box of immigration issues. When you leave your country and you go to a new one, you're definitely expecting that you're going to be safe and you're going to be comfortable. But sometimes when you do not have the right information, or when you're advised wrongly, you end up, in problems with the law. And you see, in Kenya, you can negotiate with the police officers, but I don't think you can do that in another country.
Unfortunately, in the US, you cannot do that. And I'm glad you asked that question specifically. Because when you're a Kenyan, you always feel like you can talk your way out of every situation. That you can, either sweet talk the police, ask them about their lives, ask them how they are, tell them about your life, tell them how hard it is for you, with the thought that once they understand who you are, they will let you go. And I think all of us have had the thing, you have the right to remain silent. In the US, that is a very precious right to use. Anytime you come into contact with law enforcement, that might be regular police or immigration. As a lawyer, I advise you not to try to talk your way out of it. Most of the time, the first thing you can do, if they're asking you who you are, sometimes you are required to identify yourself. So you just give them your name. That's your first, middle, and last name. At most, maybe date of birth. But that is all you are required to do. Anything after that, you don't need to say anything else. You just need to be quiet, because anything you say, they'll use it against you. Because most of the time when they are coming into contact with you, that is when they start gathering evidence. That is when they start gathering information to see whether they should detain you or not. So most of the time when you are talking, they are trying to see, okay, can we take in this person? So the more information you give them, the more ammunition you are giving them against you. So the best thing you can do is just to tell them, I've given you my name. I'm not going to say anything else. Additionally, if they come to your home, they might knock on your door and they'll ask you, can we come in? Kenyans, we are very hospitable people. We rarely find ourselves telling people, don't come in, stay where you are. But this is when you need to know that you should not let them into your house unless they have a warrant. And the way you know that they have a warrant is to ask them, do you have a search warrant? That means, do you have the right to enter my house that has been given by a judge? If they don't, then don't let them in. Additionally, don't even step outside. Just when you are inside your house, talk to them while they are outside. And if they don't have that search warrant, tell them, I'm sorry. Either you have to contact your attorney to probably get more information on how to handle it, or tell them they cannot come in. They don't have a right to come into your house unless you give them that right, or unless a judge has given them the right to do that. So never feel like, never. So I'll go back to where I started. You cannot talk your way out of law enforcement or immigration issues. That is not the way to go.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think a lot of issues, of course, have existed in immigration before, but it is until the new presidency that we have currently of President Donald Trump that the issues that were maybe not very prominently addressed by media are coming up. We are seeing a lot of deportations. We are seeing a lot of people actually struggling to put their paperwork in order. What is really happening there from someone who's on the ground?
So when it comes to immigration issues, definitely they usually say elections have consequences. If you elect somebody, then you are going to feel either the blessing of that person or the wrath of that particular person. So as we are all aware, when President Donald Trump was running for office, one of his biggest campaigning issues was immigration. Either he was coming to deport everybody, he was going to ensure that nobody comes in, and things of that nature. So since now he was elected on that particular promise, now in a sense he's implementing what he promised the electorate that he was going to do. So the biggest thing he's doing is enforcement. I can probably tell you there is no significant legal law that has passed through the Congress and been signed by the president. Basically, this president is enforcing what the previous president didn't enforce, because as a president, you have priorities and you choose what to do and what not to do. So currently, basically, the president says that he doesn't want anybody who is here illegally to be in the country. So he's using all the mechanisms. He's using federal enforcement, that means ICE agents. He's ensuring that ICE agents, that's federal enforcement, gets local support. That means the local police, that's the police in Texas, the police in Dallas, the police in California, the police in New York, go a long way in supporting that particular mandate of apprehending people who are here illegally. Some states will not support the president. I'll probably say if you are in a state like California, if you are in a state like Washington, if you are in a state like New York and certain jurisdictions, your law enforcement might not technically support the federal enforcement because they are independent. They have to probably want to do it for them to support the president. So since the president came in, what he's doing is basically enforcing the law. That means he's trying to take out people who are here, who overstayed their visas. That is a big one. And another big category of people is people who entered without coming through the port of entry. Because when you come to the US, you come through the port of entry, which we understand as immigrations. So you come through immigrations, they stamp your visa, you come in. But most people come through the US borders. That is the border between the US and Mexico, and they come through land without being inspected. those are people who are being targeted to be returned to their countries of origins. Because a while back, if you are in China, you used to come to Mexico and then you come through the border. You come through the border, which is wide open and it's a big border. If you are in India, if you are even Kenya, Nigeria, you can come through the border. You are not inspected and you come and you are in the country. So those are the people the president is trying to get out. And now the question usually is, what is the process? That is the biggest thing, because everybody deserves a chance to, I guess the US Constitution gives everybody due process. But now when you are an immigrant, you don't have the full due process rights. Let's say you entered without being inspected, there are certain due process rights you might not have. If you entered with a visa, that means you entered through immigration. The president cannot apprehend you and deport you immediately. For the president to deport you, the president has to take you through the court. It's almost like he has to report you, and then the judge has to be like, yes, this person has violated their visa. Now we need to remove them. So there are different due process rights for different kinds of immigrants. So let me go back to your question, which I started by saying elections have consequences. The reason why we are going through what we are going through, and you guys are reading, if you are on social media, if you are looking at the news, this is a big thing. It's because we have a new administration, and this new administration has put a lot of emphasis in removing people who have overstayed their visas or who are here without any visa.
Okay, so talking about visas, this is just unrelated to what you're talking about, but it still has something to do with immigration. There's a very interesting conversation that's going on X about visas in and being issued or being denied a visa to come to the US. So there's complaints that maybe sometimes due process is not followed, and you granted that visa, yes, but then you land in the US and things are not adding up. So how do you arrive there?
Okay, so the thing when it comes to visas, generally speaking, the US Constitution gives a lot of powers to the president. Visas like probably tourist visas, visitors visas, business visas, the president has a lot of leeway to do whatever he wants to do at a certain period of time. So let's say you come to the US, like now you got your visa, you are in the US, and while in the US and your visa hasn't expired, they revoke it for one reason or another without informing you. So in a sense, now there's a currently, because a lot of students, a lot of international students, a lot of F1 students have been going through this. They are informed by probably their international student advisor that their visa has been revoked. They haven't been notified. They didn't receive any letter. Nobody called them. Then they are in limbo. That means they were not informed. So, because sometimes the reason why you are informed of something is so that you can, if there is a problem, if there is an issue, you can redress that issue. But in this sense, they are not giving you information that your visa has been revoked. So now for each and every different category, there are different due process rights. For visitors visa, it's very limited. For student visa, I know currently there are cases in courts, that is in the US courts, and the president has been told by some judges that they need to inform these students of what exactly is going on with their visas. And because a lot of students sued the administration, now they stopped revoking F1 student visas. But they said that that is not the end. They are going to come back. They are just finding a good mechanism to do that. Now, how about if you are a visitor? If you are a visitor and your visa is revoked, sometimes there's so much, there's really nothing you can do about it. There's really no due process for you. Unfortunately, you cannot call your embassy and tell them, why have you revoked my visa? Because they'll tell you, it's our right to revoke your visa for one reason or another. They have a lot of power when it comes to that, and sometimes they don't need to explain themselves.
Okay, that's really interesting, because when you're talking about the revocation of visas, I was talking to a friend of mine in California, and they told me that in a particular university in California. Students' visas were revoked. No questions, no redress. There was absolutely no point to argue because you're told you have exactly 1 hour to vacate the premises. And you see, international students pump in a lot of money to go study in some of these countries in the tune of millions. So I can imagine someone tells you you have exactly 1 hour to leave the United States. We're taking you back to your home country. The confusion, is there literally nothing that can be done at the moment to protect these students? Because I would argue that, well, tourism, we can negotiate, they can go back to their country, but education is quite vital.
Absolutely. And yeah, the point you're making exactly is the point the lawyers were making too, that when it comes to education, when it comes to the amount of investment these students have put into their education, this is something very important to them. And if that is something that is important, these people need to be given rights. They need to be given, they need to have a due process. That means there needs to be a mechanism of you taking away visas from them. You need to inform them and you need to let them know the reason why. So that if probably they might not fit into your criteria, then they can argue too that probably they don't fit into that reason and they can keep their visas. So that is what lawyers have been arguing. That is what they have been telling the judges, that they should stop the government from revoking these visas because these visas means a lot to the students and it's very important to them. So the government needs to go through a process. And most of the judges have been receptive to that particular fact for now, as in most of the time, as time goes by, it might go to another court and it will change. So the lawyers when they went to court, they got injunctions, and most of the injunctions required the government probably to return the visas back to the students. So as of now, I don't want to say all of them, but majority of the visas that were revoked, most of the students are back in school because the government has said, okay, we will return back your visas, we'll give you the ability to stay here, but it's temporarily. They are probably coming up with another way of doing it because probably the initial way of doing it wasn't like the proper way. So as much as we find that we are okay right now, but that is not, in a sense, we cannot be complacent. Probably in the next few months, the administration might come up with another way that meets the legal master of the judges. So for now, I think there is a reprieve, but I don't think it's going to be permanent.
Okay, thank you very much. So since we're still on the issue of visas and how people can protect themselves, what would you argue is the real issue? What is really happening? Because as much as you're saying there is maybe a president and a change in power, and we have to feel the effect and the consequences of whatever actions that were taken during election, there has to be a reason why this is being done. Is it because there is very little contribution of immigrants to the economy? What is really happening? What problem is President Trump trying to solve in the long term when it comes to immigrants?
So I usually like to tell people that sometimes what is going on, it has nothing to do with you. Like it's not it's not really about, it's not about you necessarily. Like in a sense, it's about certain global factors that are outside, your control. So specifically when it comes to this issue of immigration, we know the Western world is going through it's called a right-wing trend. In a sense, they are going through a period where there is a fear of immigrants, so they are trying to put all the blame on immigrants because they feel like probably these immigrants have taken something from them. Either it's jobs, money, opportunities, the ability to do whatever they want to do. That is currently how most of the Western world is feeling. Like this is going on in France, this is going on in Germany, this is going on in the UK, this is going on in the US. So there is an anti-immigrant fever going on everywhere. And that happens that's usually, I'm assuming at certain periods, maybe in the probably 1920s, 1970s or thereabouts, this usually happens. What is happening right now, this is nothing new. It usually happens. So it has technically nothing to do with you. And for the president of the US who came to power, the people who have this anti-immigrant sentiment supported him. And even him himself, he has a certain anti-immigrant sentiment. So because of that, immigrants will suffer. Because of that, students will suffer. Because of that, if you are trying to emigrate, you will suffer because of what is going on. So in a sense, it has nothing to do with you. It just has something to do with these people who have the power to probably control the lives of immigrants.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of the ways of also coming to the United States, for a lot of people, they wait for the diversity lottery and they wait to win the green card. Of course, it's a give and take game, but a lot of people have found themselves in the US through that program. Are they safe at the moment, and should they, anticipate problems with their mode of entry?
That's a very good question. I'll probably say, so first of all, diversity is a statute. What I mean when I say it's a creation of a statute is it went through Congress, which is like let's say the Kenyan parliament. So when something goes through Congress, for it to be eliminated, it has to go through Congress. So Congress has to eliminate it. In a sense, the president cannot eliminate that particular right because it's not the president who created it. It's Congress. So in terms of that, it is safe because currently Congress doesn't have any incentive of eliminating it, nor does it have the numbers to eliminate it. So if you are applying for diversity visa, you are safe because that will still be there for the near future. Nothing will happen to that as of now, or we haven't had anything regarding eliminating it, and it's unlikely to be eliminated. But here is the problem. When Congress passes a statute, they do not enforce it. It's the president who enforces that particular statute. So let's say the president decides to slow down the enforcement of diversity lottery. What we know about diversity lottery is it expires after a certain period. So for example, let's say Kenyans win diversity lottery and the president decide that he doesn't want to staff the people who process diversity visa lottery in the US Embassy in Kenya. That means, let's say after 1 year, if there are no people to work on it, your diversity visa will expire. So in a sense, if the president wants to slow it down, he can slow it down in a way that will ensure that they don't work on your diversity visa lottery. But here is the thing too. When the president tries to do that, he can be sued. And when he's sued, the court can decide, okay, actually you are doing this intentionally, and you need to facilitate those people to get their diversity lottery visas. So in a sense, if you are a diversity lottery visa, you are in a better position because that's a congressional authorization or a congressional statute. But if you have other visas like visitors and all that, the president has so much power when it comes to that. And it will depend on the president's favor, more or less.
Oh, it's really interesting that a lot of these solely rests on the president, and it makes me really question just how much power he has in terms of immigration and the people that he can welcome into the country, and those that are, probably their stay is expiring or they do not even have a point of entry. So now I'm thinking, what does it mean for someone to be said you are undocumented? What documents could you be lacking for you to be told, okay, this is not adding up and you have to leave?
So when they say you are undocumented, they basically means, I'm trying to make sure I get, they mean that the way you came through to the country is you are not given a document. So for example, when you come to Kenya, you go through immigration. And when you go through immigration, they stamp your passport. So that is a document that says you can enter the US. But let's say you come through the border where nobody stamps your visa, that means there is no document giving you the right to be in that country. So in the US, when they say undocumented, what basically they mean is that these people who entered the country, they didn't enter through immigration. They just entered through the land, they were smuggled in, and nobody knows that they are here, and nobody knows that nobody has a record of them entering the country. So when they say undocumented, it means they don't have a document showing that they entered this country one way or another. So most of the time, Kenyans are rarely undocumented because Kenyans come through immigration. They come through, they buy a ticket, they come to the US, they go through immigrations, they enter. So in a sense, Kenyans are rarely undocumented. Though most Kenyans probably, if they are here, they have just violated their stay. They have overstayed their visas, so they might be here unlawfully because they have overstayed, but they are not undocumented. So in a sense, that is the distinction between the two. And the importance of that distinction is that if you are undocumented, you have fewer rights. You have fewer due process rights. That means sometimes they don't need to take you before a judge, for them to deport you. But if you came through the immigration, they have to take you to a judge, and then the judge will say, okay, you can deport this person. And here is the difference. When I say they have to take you to a judge, that process usually can take between 2 to 5 years for the judge to finally say you have been deported. Like, it doesn't happen in a day. Like the president, the law enforcement, they don't apprehend you today. In a month, you are before a judge, and in a few weeks thereafter, you are getting deportation orders. Currently, it takes probably 2 to 5 years for you to finally get a judge to say, okay, you have been here illegally, you are deported. So that is why I usually tell people, you might be arrested now while Trump is the president. By the time your case is being adjudicated, another administration will be in power, and they might have different priorities. So I usually tell people, be patient, as in it might feel like it's bad right now, but things change, and a new administration will come in with different priorities.
Okay, so talking about documents and permits, I think the one issue that actually does affect Kenyans is work, because there are two ways that maybe someone would find their way in the US. It could be through school, or it could be through work. So how is the situation with the work permits in the US currently? And do you do the same thing that the UK does in terms of sponsorship, or what does it take to legally work there in terms of visas?
Yes, so there are different ways of getting a work visa. Number one, if you are a student and you have graduated, they usually give you a work visa called OPT, that is optional training, for a year, and then you can renew it for 2 years depending on what you are doing. So you get a work visa. If you get married to a US resident or a citizen, the first thing they do is they give you a work permit, that they give you the ability to work. Additionally, there are certain professions that US are running out of. Number one is probably nurses. That is usually the biggest one. Teachers, that is another one. So most of the time when the US is like, okay, we don't have enough, let's say, nurses or teachers, the immigration system is created in a way that they can give work visas to these people. So as much as currently it might seem that, okay, there is an anti-immigrant fever going on, when it comes to issues dealing with work visas, those, as far as we currently know, that nothing has changed. They might look at your petition in a sense, in a strict way, but if your petition has met all the criteria, so far they are not probably curtailing work visas or work visas applicants from entering the country. And I guess just to follow on your question, how can you come to the US via a work visa, or how can you get a work permit? I think in a sense, most people know that if you are a healthcare professional, that is usually a way to get in, mostly nurses. If you are a teacher, currently the US, they want teachers, they can come in. Usually when it comes to workers, they get their seasonal workers. They might not get it from Kenya, but they get it from Mexico. And in a sense, those are the people who usually come in, they work temporarily for a few months, and then they go back. But those people usually get work visas too. So that is that when it comes. And then additionally, let me not forget our athletes, because our athletes, sometimes they can get, if you're a extraordinary athlete, you can get a visa or a permanent residency that says that, okay, I've accomplished this and I want to come to the US and be in the US. You can get a work visa in the US. Yes, if you are somebody of that extraordinary ability, you can come to the US. And not only, I'll probably say all forms of athletics. You can be a football star, you can be a runner or anything like that. As long as you have extraordinary ability, you can apply and come to the US. And if approved, come to the US.
Okay, so thank you very much, Nicholas. So the one other issue that also affects people when it comes to documentation is asylum seekers.
Yes.
So how is that going? Do they still have asylum? Is the US still safe for them?
And now that is so let me, I guess, define what, when we say asylum, what do we mean? So basically, we mean refugees who are in the country already. So asylum, your ability to get asylum, that is your ability to be a refugee in the US currently, because the president has a lot of control when it comes to that, Maria, in that the president can decide these numbers of refugees, or we are giving these numbers of asylees, actually the refugees first. The president can decide in the year 2025, we are only going to allow 20,000 refugees to come in. So that means regardless of what is going on in the world, regardless of whether there is wars in Ukraine, people are fighting in Sudan and they want to come and shelter in the US, the president has put a limit. So in a sense, the president has so much power when it comes to matters to do with refugees. So currently that has been affected because the president has limited the number and the method of refugees entering the country. And if you are an asylum seeker, that means you are in the US already, but you are saying you cannot go back to your home country. Now that means you have to go through the immigration system here. The president too has certain powers when it comes to that. He can decide that, okay, this category of people, we are not going to be accepting. So the president has so much power when it comes to that. And it is his department, it's called the Department of Justice, that does that. So in a sense, the president has so much power when it comes to that. Not a lot of power, because if you are, in a sense, if your case meets certain criteria and it's very convincing, sometimes they don't have an option but to grant you asylum. But if you have probably a very not so strong a case, then most likely you are not going to be granted asylum.
Okay, so talking of asylum seekers, what currently makes a strong case for seeking asylum? Because there is war, there is famine. Sometimes people in Kenya have sought asylum, maybe because of FGM.
Yes. So when you are seeking asylum, what you are basically telling the government is that you are being persecuted. You are being persecuted, and not by somebody, by an organization. And for you to get asylum, not only do you have to be persecuted, but the government cannot offer you protection from that person who is persecuting you.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes it's because it's the government, that means you don't have protection from anybody. So now when you, like for example, Kenya, you will, in Kenya, there is no religious persecution. So as a Kenyan, if you come here and you're like, I'm being persecuted really because of my religion, they most likely, unless you have a very unique case, you might not go through with that particular application, because they're like, in Kenya, everybody can practice whatever they want without fear of the government coming after them. FGM, sometimes you can, some people, you can still get it. Uh, uh, but in certain circumstances, if you are from certain marginalized communities, if you are in Nairobi and you are saying that you are fearing persecution from FGM, that might be a problem. As in your case might not be as convincing as somebody who is in Samburu or certain places. And another one is to, let's say if you meet certain, let's say you belong to a certain social group. Like, let's say you are a woman and you are experiencing domestic violence, and you have reported to the government hasn't done anything about it, and you are in the US and you are fearing that if you go back to where you come from, you are going to be persecuted by that particular person, and you don't have any protection from the government. Sometimes if you have enough convincing evidence, you might get asylum. That is a few ways, as in there are so many ways, not so many ways, there are certain ways. Those are the few ways you can get asylum.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying those, because there are so many pathways and that people find themselves in the United States, either to work, become a student, and in very extreme cases, they do find themselves as asylum seekers. So of course, there's still a lot of checks that are going on, but now that you're speaking from an information point of view, have you had issues where a Kenyan has come to you and told you, I'm in trouble with immigration, and what do you do for them? Like, where do you start when someone comes to you and tells you, I think I have a problem?
Maria, as in when you are a Kenyan attorney, this is the life we live. These are members of our community. Sometimes they are not only our clients, they are our family, they are our friends, they are our acquaintances, they are our church mates. So yes, so this is as long as you are an immigrant in the US, you know people, and sometimes even you are once that particular person. So in a sense, it's something that we go through or that we see every day. So yes, to answer your question, people will call me, people come to my office, people text me asking me questions, and I'll probably say the biggest threat or the biggest thing that people are undergoing is the fear of what might happen.
Mhm.
And that is when I talk to people, that is what transmits to me, because they're like, can we go to work? If I go to work, will I be apprehended? Can I drive a car? If I drive this car and the police stop me, will I be detained? So there
Mhm.
is that constant fear that somebody will stop you and they'll detain you and they'll take you to a detention facility. And when you are in that detention facility, you are not going to get bond. You are not going to be released. You are going to be taken to Kenya. So the biggest thing is the fear that people have. And I usually like to tell them not to fear as much, because fear can, in a sense, it can freeze you. It can depress you. It can give you even more uh, unwanted ill effects. You cannot work. You are sick. You are depressed, and in a sense, sometimes actually somebody like the president, Donald Trump, that is the biggest thing he wants, for you to have that particular fear. It's so in a sense, I usually equate it to like when you are in a war and the two sides are fighting. If you are able to make your enemy fear you, it's
You
almost
have
like
won.
you have won, or almost you have won halfway. So in a sense, I usually tell people not to succumb to the fear of this particular administration. That doesn't mean you don't take action to ensure that, when something happens, you are ready for it. But
Mhm.
so there's a day. So I have enough fear to make sure
To
that
do the right thing.
you organize yourself,
Mhm.
but don't have the fear that will stop you and that will freeze you, or that will even have ill effects when it comes to your health. So there's a certain fear, But I advise the people who see me that, okay, it's okay to fear, but ensure that this fear doesn't stop you from taking action or from living your life. Because I know now people, we talk about being apprehended, being arrested. But the reality is, these are the government, they don't have the ability to arrest all unlawful people who are in this country. They don't have that ability. They don't have the manpower. And they will not get that manpower in the next 2, 3 years. It's almost impossible. They don't have the courts to take people who they have arrested to prosecute those cases. They don't even have the detention facilities to take people who they have apprehended. So in a sense, the biggest thing they have is the fear they put into people. So that is the biggest thing they have. So you have to tell people, okay, as in you still have to live your life regardless. You just have to plan and be organized.
Okay, so of course that fear is really crippling because you're in a foreign country, you have a family. I can imagine just how much mental torture and mental exhaustion you go through every day to think, are you safe? Are you going to be okay? Is your family going to be safe? Which brings me to the next question about the family unit of immigrants. Should you find yourself there and maybe you don't have permanent residency, depending on whichever path that you took, you found yourself there and you have your family. What happens to them and how is this affecting the family unit?
I usually, those are the people that I have the most uh, empathy for, or that I feel the most pain for. The people who have young children, because now you're asking yourself as a parent that what will happen to my children if I'm apprehended? Where will they go? So the people, though, like you're saying, I can imagine you use the word crippling, and that is the word I was trying to get, Maria, and that is a very apt word for what these people are going through. That if you are a family, you have children, now you wonder what will happen to you, what will happen to your family, and what should you do? So now I guess as an attorney, I usually tell people just have a plan, have a simple plan. The first one is the person who will be with your children in the event that you are arrested. They should have a power of attorney. It's a guardianship form that you have signed that you will give them, and if you are no longer, if you are arrested, once they have that particular guardianship form, they can take care of your children while you are detained. So in a sense, that will help knowing that, and you need to inform that person that, okay, I've given, in case something happens to you, they have guardianship rights over your children. So you should have a document that a certain amount of money you need to give the government so that they can release you. So in a sense, you should always have a certain amount of money and make sure somebody as you trust can access that money so that when you are detained within a short period of time, a week or two, somebody is able to post bond, and then when you are released, you are able to come back to your life. So in a sense, you need to plan, like you need to have a plan like that. Like you need to have somebody who is going to take care of your children, what will happen to you, and how will you be able to post bond, and then your documents, you should know where your documents are, who can access your documents, and things of that nature. If you have an attorney, in a sense, you should know their number. If you are detained, you can call them and tell them you have been detained, and then we can take action thereafter. So in a sense, you should, as much as it might be crippling, you should always have a plan. Some people usually tell me once they have a plan, they feel a sense of relief. So I usually urge those people, like families, have a plan, and be patient, be safe, know your rights, and then, like anything else, it shall pass.
Okay, so since we are talking about, we've already gotten to the consequences bit and what could happen should things go wrong. However, what we're trying to do is tell people what they can do to prevent those things from going wrong. Sometimes, as Kenyans, you see, when you've said that this too shall pass, that is not legal advice, and there has to be something that someone can do. At what point should someone consult a lawyer instead of, deciding to bury their head in the sand and waiting for, the axe to drop?
And Maria, as I'm a human being too, in addition to being a lawyer. So I give human advice in addition to legal advice. So, but that is a very good question. At what point should you see a lawyer? So you uh, you should always know your legal circumstance. So you don't need to be arrested. People don't need to be looking for you to understand where you are when it comes to what is your legal standing, what is your immigration standing while you are in this country. So you should always see a lawyer so that they can tell you, as in, what is your position, as in, what are your options. Sometimes you go to a lawyer and they tell you actually currently you don't have an option, but you should know that because you don't want to know, you don't want to think you have an option and actually you don't have an option. So, because if you know that you don't have that option, then it will help you make other decisions. So in a sense, you should always don't wait, like get a legal opinion even when nothing is happening to know your legal options. Additionally, if you are going to, let's say, submit a petition, it's always important to get legal advice so that you know how to submit that particular petition. If you have like a notice or to appear before a judge, definitely that is something you cannot handle on your own. You should get legal advice before you go to that particular court. So there are so many there are so many of us immigration lawyers, and the earlier you see one of us, the better it will be for you and your rights. That is what I can say.
Okay, I guess lawyers are not the best at advertising themselves or even saying what they do. Maybe it's because they're bound by ethics. However, Nicholas Ngetich is an immigration lawyer based in Dallas, Texas, which means he can practice in Dallas, Texas. However, because immigration is a federal issue, he can definitely be able to help you in whatever place that you are in the United States. If you're watching this from Kenya or from any other part of the globe, I believe that there are certain things about the law that do not change, and you can ask your questions, and we can, of course, try our best to give you, as he said, human advice. If you want him to give you legal advice, you are going to have to pay, and based on the economy he is operating from, that is going to be in dollars. So please make use of this conversation. As you're continuing with this, Nicholas, of course, there's something that is happening on social media. I don't know if you're on TikTok, but sometimes people complain that someone snitched on me, or someone told the immigration department that I am not documented and now I have been given deportation papers. On the other hand, you've said that the hearing for these things, especially because for Kenyans, the issue is not being undocumented. The issue is you have overstayed your visa, which means you're in the country illegally either way. Do they really have to be worried? Like, are you getting deported tomorrow? Because when you hear someone ranting on TikTok, it's as if they have to pack and go tomorrow.
Uh, I guess you can find anything on social media. So what you are saying doesn't surprise me, but let me. So the truth is, uh, like let's say you call immigration enforcement and tell them that you know somebody who is there illegally. I'll go back to my previous point. Immigration enforcement, they know a lot of people are here illegally. They even when they are driving through the roads, they can see people who are constructing these roads, who they know these people are probably undocumented or they are here illegally. So in a sense, when you call them, they are not waking up in the morning and they are saying, okay, now let's go to Nicholas. Somebody called us yesterday and they said they know that this guy is here unlawfully or illegally. That is not technically how they work. And additionally, if they come for you, they'll just detain you for, if they are going to hold you, they might hold you. They can set bond and you can be released. There is no way that these immigration people will come and detain you and deport you in the next few months. I can probably tell you currently it takes them 3 to 5 years for them to be able to actually deport you. So if you find somebody who is saying somebody snitched on me and now I'm being deported, know that that person is there they are trying to get your attention so that they can get views and be paid by TikTok. They are not there giving you legal advice. They are selling something else. They are not selling legal information. So that's not something that happens. It's snitching on people. You can snitch all you want. The government knows that there are a lot of unlawful people and a lot of undocumented people. They don't necessarily act on you calling them and telling them that somebody is here illegally.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Talking about being there illegally, what happens when I come, I get married, and I get divorced?
So now the question okay, that's a very good question. And so this is what happens. So the question will be, were you married? Let's say you are married to somebody who is a permanent resident or a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
You come here and you marry them and they file for you, that means papers, right? They file for a green card and you get a green card and then you get divorced thereafter. Then you have a green card.
Oh.
Then you have your green. But if you get divorced before you get your green card, then you're without a green card and you need to have a green card to be here. So in a sense, if you get your papers before you get divorced, then you are like any other green card holder. You have a right to be here. But if you get separated before you get your papers, then you might need other options. And there are usually other options of ensuring that you stay here in a lawful status. So most of the time, if you come here and things don't work out, that is human nature. Sometimes things don't work out. Then you talk to an attorney and then your attorney will advise you what is the next course of action. You can call me. Look for me. I bet you if you Google Ngetich Law Firm, you'll find my law firm, my number and everything else, my address, and you can always contact me and I'll be able to see how I can help you.
Oh, that's really interesting because I've just realized that is the one legal advice that you've actually skipped. You've told us what to do in every other situation except that one.
How to the married part or how to find me?
No, the marrying, or we can find you, of course, on social media by your handles, Nicholas Ngetich.
Yes.
However, moving forward, someone who does not say have a green card, I've come from Kenya and we found ourselves there, and I've gotten married and gotten divorced, but I did not get to the green card point. Does that make me a US entrant illegally?
Okay, so I'm assuming when you came with a certain visa, you got married. So for you to get papers, you have to go, somebody has to ask immigration to the petition, right? The immigration, that is the immigration department. And then you go for an interview and then immigration is like, okay, we have approved, we have given you papers. So if you don't go through that process, then you don't have anything. Just because you got married to a permanent resident or to a citizen doesn't mean you don't have it till they give it to you. And they'll call you for an interview. And during that interview, they'll give it to you. So so just because you're married doesn't mean you have papers. You have to go through an additional step.
Okay, that's very interesting information.
And the first step is getting married. So that's a very important step. Yeah.
That's really good to know because I think a lot of people do forget that step of after you've gotten married, you do need to actually file papers and file them correctly.
Yeah.
Are there instances where, those papers do not get you the outcome that you were looking for?
Yeah.
Like if you go to the interview and you fail?
Yes. So sometimes you could, like if you get married and that interview is for you to show that, you are actually married. If you go to an interview and you are not able to show that you are in a legitimate marriage, then they will deny your petition. And once they deny your petition, that means they have a right to start removal process. That means they have a right to start deporting you. So it's like now they have arrested you, now they have to take you before an immigration judge and say that you should remove this person. And in that instant, it's easy because you are there. They have all your information. So they can just send you a letter and be like, you know what? Remember you came here claiming that you married this person and we didn't believe you. Now, in addition to not believing you, we are seconding you to immigration court for you to be removed. So that can happen. And most of the time, if they find that you submitted a fraudulent application, that means exactly you are trying to lie to them. That means any other petition you submit before them, especially when in regards to marriage, they'll never approve it, even if it's legitimate. So that means once you have a bad application, any subsequent application will be denied regardless of its merits.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that. It's very important information to have, considering people do find the marriage route a very, very, I would argue easier when they need to like leave. I don't know how it's worked out for other people. Maybe in the course of these interviews, I would find someone who's gotten a path to residency through marriage and how that is working out for them. So as we are going through this, at the beginning of this interview, I did say that BBC did a live, they did a show about Stranded in the UK that exposed the scams that are there in immigration. Because these people are vulnerable when they go to seek for help, what is it that they should look out for? Because for you to say that you're a legitimate lawyer and you have your handles, but people get misguided all the time. What should people watch out for in terms of immigration help to ensure that they are not scammed and that they are safe?
So, like you said, Maria, make sure that the person you are working with is legitimate. And the advantage of, I guess, being a lawyer is that you just need to ask that person for their BAN number. Or even if you have their full names, when you search for them, they should, if you search for me, you should be able to see my license. You should be able to see that I'm licensed to practice in Texas. So anytime somebody is telling you they're a lawyer, ask them for their full names, and then you search for it. If their license doesn't come up, then ask them, why are you licensed to practice? Are you a lawyer? So make sure you are dealing with lawyers, because if you are dealing with lawyer, then we have a responsibility to ensure that we guide you in a way that is in your best interest, because it's also in our best interest to guide you. We can lose our licenses. So in a sense, we have something at stake. That is why we give you the best information. If you are talking to somebody whose stake is only your money, then most likely that person will probably get your money. Sometimes they might help you, sometimes they might not help you, and you won't have recourse if they mess you up. Most of the time you are before an immigration judge, you're like, this person helped me. They're like, actually, that person is not an attorney. You had other dealings with this particular person, and we are not responsible. But if you are before an immigration judge and you tell an immigration judge, this lawyer with this BAN number misadvised me, sometimes the judges actually might give you another second chance and go ahead and punish the attorney who misadvised you. So to go back to it, I guess now when they say the desperate times call for desperate measures, don't be desperate. As much as it's desperate times, don't resort to desperate measures. Be measured in what you do, and don't take action that will later come to haunt you. So just be measured, be cautious, and talk to people who are, legally obligated to protect you. And that's probably the best advice I can tell you.
Okay, so thank you very much for sharing that. And we've already agreed that this is just advice or what someone should do should they find themselves in a situation that they don't know what they can do. Kenyans, we do like to talk our way out of situations, but when you find yourself in the US or in any other diaspora country, you cannot talk your way out of a problem. The first thing you do is find someone that is actually legally licensed to practice. We know it might come at a cost, but I think you're better off getting advice that would actually help you than, putting your jeopardy or your job at risk. Many issues would come up as this immigration conversation continues going on, and we're going to bring you experts like Ngetich and other people who are dealing with these on a day-to-day basis so that they can give you the information and so that you can also put a face to some of the people that are helping the people of Kenya in the countries that they are. Now that you've seen Ngetich, you know who to contact should you find yourself in such a situation. As we wind this down, I do have one question. What is the one thing that you would tell a Kenyan that is seeking to, move to the US currently, based on how the temperature is with immigration and the issues that they're likely to face?
That's a very good question. And there is no one answer for everybody. So for people who are coming through work visas, nurses, teachers, exchange visitors, J visas, don't do anything different. Just go through the process. I'm assuming you have an agency that is sponsoring you. Follow the directions they are giving you. Most likely, if you are going to get your work visa, you will get it. So don't be in fear. Just go through the process that you had planned on going through. Just be more thorough, the paperwork you're submitting. Make sure you are not falsifying anything. Make sure you are giving the correct information. Make sure that you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's. And if that is you, you should not have any fear. Let's say you are a visitor and you want to come to the US. Now, because here is what happens. When you apply to the US and they deny you the first time, the next time you apply, most likely they might deny you. So if I was in that position, I'll probably ask myself, what are the chances of me getting a visitor's visa with this administration? If I know that the chances are not very high, then if I'm in your position, probably I'll wait for another administration because the chances might increase with another administration. So if you are just trying to get a visitor's visa, this might not be the best climate to apply a visitor's visa, but sometimes you don't have an option and you have to. So you just, take note of your situation and make sure you have the best advice. And things change, as in next year, there might be a World Cup that is going on. The government might decide, okay, it's time for us to let in people. Then that might be probably the best time to apply for a visitor's visa. So in a sense, look at the climate and know that, okay, just don't apply for the sake of applying. Apply if you think you have a chances of success. When it comes to families with family visas, just make sure you have evidence showing that you are a family. That hasn't been affected. That is still going on. There is no reason to fear. Put in your applications and get that going. So I'll probably say there are different advice for different categories of people. And most of yes.
Okay, please do not take this as a blanket situation if you're watching this and this does get to you. Kenyans, we're very interesting people because if Panadol worked for your aunt, you would want to assume that it's going to work for you. So whatever path that they took in terms of immigration, whoever they contacted or whoever helped them, you would think that that situation would still apply to you. Sometimes even given the same circumstances and given the same issues, visas still get denied. And the process is very, very expensive. So as Ngetich has said, if you think you do not stand a chance, I think it's better to wait or find other avenues that would actually easily save you money because I can imagine the amount of money and the amount of emotional labor that it takes. And anticipating for something different and then you're told your visa is denied. I don't think your money comes back. So it's good to literally know everything that is happening, everything that you can anticipate so that you can save money. The economy is tough. So make the right decision always, contact the right people. So as you drop off from this, I would like you to tell people where they can follow you for updates and where they need help, where can they find you, where's your office in Dallas, and where are you located on social media?
First of all, Maria, thank you very much for that wonderful interview. Kenyan Diaspora Media, Thank you very much for having me. And for everybody who is listening out there, like I said, do not have fear, but just have enough fear to organize yourself and have yourself prepared. I'm in Texas. I'm a Texas licensed lawyer. I practice immigration law throughout the world. Like if you are in whichever US embassy you are in the world and you need help, you can always contact me. If you are in Nairobi embassy and you need help, you can always call me. If you are in the US and you need legal advice, immigration advice, you can always call me. And I guess as a lawyer, I would just probably like to disclaim and say, if you have had anything from me today, that is not legal advice. If you want legal advice, call me. We were just having tea and shooting breeze. Don't hold me legally liable for what I've said. So my names are, and I guess, Nicholas Ngetich. You can find me, Google my name, and you can call me. My information is currently available in ngetichlawfirm.com. Go there, you'll see me. And yeah, and let's continue this conversation. And thank you for providing this avenue for this conversation. Thank you very much, Maria.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicholas Ngetich, for your time today. And of course, we're going to, continue saying that this was just an information session. And if people do want actual legal advice, they should pay you in dollars. Thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in today from wherever you are in the globe, because I know he's in Texas. The time zones are different. It could be morning, it could be evening, and anyone in Karachi, please, this is your person. Please say hello in all our social media platforms. Continue following the conversation on the Kenya Diaspora Media. Tag us from wherever you are. And as a request for each and every person who's taken part and watched our journey, you've seen the experts that you're bringing. You've seen the kind of people that we want to inform you. So if you're out there and you're an expert and you have information that could help Kenyans in the diaspora or even Kenyans in back our home country, that could help them stay out of trouble or even make the right decision in terms of business, in terms of entrepreneurship, please send them our way. Today, I would like to thank our sponsors and the people that make this show a success. We have Tunic Logistics. If you have anything that you need to ship from the diaspora to Kenya or Kenya to wherever you are in the globe, Tunic Logistics is your go-to firm. If you need to send money to Kenya, we have Pay Angel. They have really, really amazing rates if you need to send money across. We have Equity. They have really nice packages for mortgages and even for loans across the diaspora. For people that need to do investments, we have Imarisha Sacco. They have a really nice savings plan. Please make sure to call them. They are really good with financing in terms of people that are out there and you need to do something back here in Kenya. And then we have, of course, Santa Maria, our real estate people. If you're thinking about investing in buildings and you don't know where to start, these are definitely a group of people that you should call. Thank you very much for tuning in today, and I will see you next week for yet another interesting conversation. Nicholas, tell our people goodbye.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good week and a good Monday.
Haya, kwaherini.